So, glass coffins, will they become popular? Remains to be seen.
Hey, shh.
This week, death doesn't take no for an answer.
Wait,
Let's talk about that.
I didn't like that at all.
Good mythical morning. Oh, did
Okay.
you want me to start? You didn't
Yeah,
like my new
I
intro?
don't.
Okay.
Seems copyrighted to me.
Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we watch movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. With me, as always, is my co-host and wife, Kelsey. I'll
Am
have
I right?
to replace that, but for those of you that are listening, she played a
Aww.
John Denver song. She doesn't realize that our podcast will get in trouble for doing that.
Man.
So, John Denver is prominently featured in this movie, and she played it as her intro, which is pretty good. And yeah, it does start off with
It's the
20
song that
years.
plays in the movie.
It's the longest, just, 2000s credits intro ever.
That's what literally my opening says, plays music with no words for an obscenely long amount of time. That was the intro that I gave myself to do today. And the
Well,
disappointment that I have right now.
if you want to know the movie we're talking about, this week we saw that Death Doesn't Take No for an Answer in 2000's Final Destination. So, what do you think the story was?
Death not taking no for an answer.
True that.
A group of high school kids. One of them has premonitions that they're all going to die, and some of them escape death, and it's about death tracking them down, taking no for an answer.
Not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
So, even if you haven't seen this movie, you've probably heard somebody reference it due to the second film and the highway accident, but that's not this movie. This one starts off with a plane crash. So they're going on a Paris senior trip, and there's a kid named Alex, and he has a vision of this plane crashing. It is a ridiculously brutal vision. I was surprised revisiting this movie, for how old it is. I expected this scene to not be that good.
Yeah, I will say, while they're at the airport, on his luggage tag, you kind of have an eerie feeling. And on his luggage tag, it says Final Destination. I thought that was well placed.
Yeah.
Very 2000s well placed.
Yeah, apparently the movie was originally going to be called Flight 180, and they switched it to Final Destination,
Oh.
which is better for the sequels because they would have been stuck to a plane-only theme with Flight 180.
Yeah, do you think it's because people die in like plane crashes from accidents like that and it was too close to home?
Well, sadly enough that you say that, much of the news footage that they used for the plane crash at the beginning of this movie was from the actual July 1996 explosion and crash of the Flight 800 taking off from New York. All 230 people died on board, and it's the third deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history. And that's where they got all that footage.
That's sad.
Yes. So, because he has this vision of what's going to happen, I mean, you don't even know it's a vision. You think it's real when you're watching the movie. They don't play it like telling you that it's a vision. He gets on the plane in his vision. You think everybody dies. I mean, you see people flying out the window. You see metal pieces of the plane ripping off and going into people, decapitating people. You see the fire of the plane just melting people. It's awful. Because of this, he wakes up from this vision and he's freaking out and he wants to get off the plane. He's not going to do it. He's trying to escape, and so obviously they kick him off the plane, and they end up kicking several of the other students off the plane as well as two of the teachers for this senior trip. In the first draft of the script, actually, the survivors that got off the plane were 7 strangers, but because teen slashers were really popular at this time, they changed it to a high school class. Anyway.
That's pretty interesting because you typically, in a lot of horror movies, you don't kill kids.
Yeah, I guess they are all pretty young, but I mean,
they're all going to be 17, 18, so like technically they're adults, but my point is I think it's different if it's 7 adult strangers. I don't think it changes how you feel about the movie, but I think people watching are going to be like, oh, that sucks. It's children. They had a whole life ahead of them versus if you had, say that what was his name? Carter? The character that plays Carter, the, asshole kid.
Mm-hmm.
If you had an asshole adult like that, you may feel less bad if that person was to die.
Well, they have a character like that in the sequel. The sequel kind of does just 7 strangers, and I do think it's harder to establish a backstory with that. Like with these kids, you already get a sense of the backstory. Oh, they're graduating. They're in their senior trip.
I think it's important too that they're graduating. They're in a senior trip, but Alex is an outcast. And then he had this premonition, further making him seem weird and like he set it up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they don't believe him at first because he got off the plane screaming about this plane crash, and then there's a plane crash. And so they're like investigating him, trying to figure out what he has to do with the whole thing. And they can't figure out anything about, him having anything to do with it because he really doesn't. And they go on. But what ends up happening next is Alex's best friend Todd dies.
He dies by hanging, which is awful because it seems like it was suicide. And you can tell, like, you can see Death moving in the water and then he's slipping and hangs himself. But nobody else knows that because the water just disappears.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you bring that up because the original plan was to have Death as much more of an obvious entity in the film. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you see during Todd's death, like, you see a shadow in the mirror and you see the water that runs out of the toilet that causes him to slip, like, go back. But after that death, everything else is much more accidental because they change their minds and they stop doing, like, this.
I think if they changed their mind, that'd be... I mean, I did notice that, but the thing is if they were going to change their mind, they could have just reshot that one scene.
They could have just didn't show the water go back.
That's what I'm saying, because it doesn't...
Because everything else does seem like, oh, that could happen, I guess. And not that water can't slip out of or come out of your plumbing, but, it going back is where it was a little weirder.
Yeah.
But everyone believes Todd unfortunately committed suicide because his brother was actually on the plane, and his brother told him to get off to go check on Alex. And so they think that he's guilty, but that's not the case. He just slips in water, and this clothesline in the bathroom wraps around his neck, unfortunately ending his life. Or there is a scene where when Alex is starting to, like, try and put this together and figure it out, where you see his clock, his, like, bedroom clock, it switches from 1 a.m. to 1:80, which was the flight number. It took 5 days to get that shot correct, apparently. I would have moved on. I would have been like, well, we're not doing it. But the number 180 is repeated or hinted in all the sequels.
Oh,
so
yeah. Have you seen all the sequels?
I've seen most of them, which after watching this, I went back to watch the second one because it had been so long since I seen this. I saw this when I was really young, too young, which is why I'm forever like, what if we slip on that water and boom, a knife.
He is like that.
But watching the sequel, I'll just touch on this really quick. I think this might be a fucking fantastic set of movies that I'm going to rewatch all of them, probably.
Oh.
But we'll get back to that. Anyway, Alex and one of the other students who survived Clear go to the morgue to see Todd's body because they both feel uncertain about this whole thing.
Clear believes Alex.
Yes, because she had a feeling that he was right when they were on the plane. She was like, I don't know you, I've never known you, but when you were speaking, I just felt it.
And the entire movie has like this eerie feeling about it. You always feel unease, you always feel uncomfortable. Which is something I liked about it. But I felt that especially when they went to the morgue, because then the coroner just happens to walk in. They break in the middle of the night, and he starts telling them that it's all part of Death's sadistic design, and that they all cheated Death, and they have to figure out how and when it's coming back to them.
Not to mention that the coroner is played by Tony Todd, which is like a horror icon. He plays the Candyman, of course. If you've been into horror for a while, you'd probably know about him. And so his presence already kind of just has a menacing feel to it. So
you always question, why does he know this? That was what I questioned anyway.
He did come out of the blue, just like,
and you have to figure out how to escape it.
Maybe death. Well, the way he's speaking could just be a normal, but because of the circumstances, it seems elevated.
I guess we'll get to that in sequels, huh?
So on the news, they actually report that during the investigation of this plane crash, they found that there was a fuel leak that was going to cause all these, like, explosions in the plane, or did cause all these explosions in the plane, but it specifically was going to light up these seats. It happens to be the seats the students were on. So Alex puts together that there was a path of this fuel that leads to how they were supposed to die, and he believes that they are going to die in that same order. Basically, as we said in the beginning, Death expected them to die, they cheated Death, and now Death is coming to finish the job.
Correct.
So that's why random things are happening. It's the weirdest stuff. I mean, the next thing that happens is they're on this street, and I wrote down, how did they all randomly meet up on this street? Alex and Clear are sitting there eating together or at a fucking restaurant or something. They're on the side of the street, and Carter and his girlfriend Terry are driving by and see them, and also Billy, another student. I mean, all these are students. They're like the main group of students that we're following. Billy is like riding his bike by. why are they all in the same... Like, they all just graduated, too. And I know there was a death, but nobody left.
It's
Like,
death sadistic design.
you're right. I mean, it is probably part of the design. Anyway, Carter has been mad at Alex and still blames him. So Carter pulls over and he's getting ready to fight Alex. And also, because he, like, whips his car around, he, like, knocks Billy off of his bike or something. And so Billy's standing there, too. And they're all standing there.
And you just think... I thought that Billy was going to die in that moment.
Yeah, well, Alex is trying to tell them, like, how there's a path and an order and all this stuff. And they don't believe him. But Terry turns around and she gets hit by a bus. She's standing there in the street like, I'm not going to do this. And if you just want to keep beating up Alex forever, then fine. You can drop dead. And she gets hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Followed by their teacher, Miss Luton. She's next, and at her house, she has the most ridiculous just series of unfortunate events that lead to her death. I mean, that's the thing about this movie is it's almost unintentionally funny how ridiculous some of the stuff is. It doesn't feel so unbelievable, but at the same time, it'll be like a knife is sitting in Miss Luton's like stomach, and Alex comes in to save her, and like a chair falls and like just hits the knife more into her, and it's like, you cannot get a break with this shit.
Yeah.
Because Alex shows up here to save Miss Luton. They find him, or they find the knife with his fingerprints. They find his boot mark in the blood. And they're
well,
like...
the house blows up.
Yeah, but they still find all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
They are, like, suspecting Alex still. And so they're coming after him. And he's now on the run and hiding inside of Clear's father's cabin.
Yeah. Clear hides Alex.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm sorry. I guess he's not hiding yet. Because what happens is, after that... Alex, Clear, Billy, and Carter are all in Carter's car together. And Carter, having kind of a breakdown about Terry and about the situation, he pulls onto a train track and he's like, oh, well, if death makes all these decisions and it's not my turn yet, then I guess I won't die here. And he stops on the train track. And so they're all getting out of the car except Carter. And then Carter changes his mind last minute. He can't get out. The seatbelt's stuck. Alex is trying to save him. The seatbelt rips. They come up with this whole thing about, oh, if you save somebody who was about to die that was next in line, then...
It skips them.
Yeah, it skips them. And so that becomes this plot point. But because of all the shit that they just did, when this train hits Carter's car, a piece of it gets ripped off and decapitates Billy, who's standing there. I wrote down my note about Billy... And Billy's played by Sean William Scott, who plays Stifler in the American Pie movies. So I wrote down, it feels like Stifler wandered into the wrong movie. Like,
yeah.
He's so, like, he's like a gentle fucking idiot in this movie. And the whole time he's just like, you're a dick, Carter. Like, stop bullying me. He's just such a normal high school kid.
Yeah, he's supposed to, and he's scared and all of this.
And then he dies, and I'm just like, you didn't deserve this.
No, he did not deserve death. Like,
So anyway, like then back to what we were saying, Alex is hiding out in this cabin because he's supposed to be the next death. And you do see a lot of shit happen in the cabin that he's like preparing for. You know, he's like walking around with like mittens on. He's got like things all duct taped down so nothing can fall off. But
he does escape death at that cabin.
Well, I'm confused about that, really. It doesn't matter. But at the same time, what happens at the cabin is even though he's escaping death, he's like, wait, it's actually not me that's next. It's Clear that's next. Because there's something with, like, he was supposed to switch seats with someone.
Yeah.
And
he switched seats with those girls because the girls wanted to sit together, but Todd wanted to sit by one of them. So he switched seats to sit by Todd.
Yes. And so because of that, he wasn't actually next. It actually is Clear. So Clear is in a fucking stupid situation where she's like in a car that won't start. There's an electric wire like just whipping around. It's lighting some gas.
The FBI is there.
Yes. And he's able to save her from that.
Yeah. Well, he said stay in the car because the electric right now, the tires are protecting her.
Yes.
Which that's the thing that people say, like in a lightning storm, you're safe in your car because the electricity won't go through rubber tires.
Yeah. And he says like that he's going to grab the electric cable and he can only hold it for a second to...
And she can escape.
Yeah. But it'll apparently kill him. And he says to her, I'll always be with you. And I was like, you've known this girl for a month.
I know. They haven't known each other that long.
Anyway, he grabs it. It kills him, but he's revived. And so because of that, they believe the curse is broken. Like, they're saved. They don't have to worry about it. It shows 6 months later
They
they
all
are.
actually go to Paris.
Yeah, they're in Paris together. Clear, Carter, and Alex.
So it's Clear and Alex are a couple, and Carter's just third wheeling.
Yeah, and he was a dick the whole movie, so you're like.
And then now they're like, oh, we're all friends.
But then a fucking like sign swings down and it almost hits Alex, but Carter saves him, and then it comes back and kills Carter.
Yeah, but Alex also dies.
Does he?
They both die.
I don't.
Alex gets impaled by the sign that's flying through the air.
That doesn't sound right.
I'm Googling it. Pause for a moment, people.
Okay, so it does not show Alex die at the end of the movie. As we searched up, I was completely right the entire time. There was no room for nuance or anything like that.
Oh my gosh.
But actually, Alex apparently dies off screen. It's mentioned in the sequel.
Before the second one, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't die in that moment. But Clear lives. Now, this story of this movie was originally going to be a concept for The X-Files, which was inspired by a movie called Soul Survivor. In that movie, a woman was the sole survivor of a plane crash, and she starts to be haunted by dead people that death uses temporarily as vessels trying to kill her to correct its plan and killing everyone who suspects it.
I think it was better as a movie.
Yeah, the budget for this movie was $23 million, and it made $112.9 million. On Rotten Tomatoes, Final Destination has an approval rating of 40% based on 104 reviews with an average rating of 4.9 out of 10. I rated it a 4 out of 5. I think that it's a clever way to just do interesting kills and not have to explain them. Sometimes, you'll have a killer in a movie, in a horror movie, do like an interesting kill, but you're also like, what are the fucking chances? All this stuff, yeah, what are the chances? But also, it's death, like, trying to get them, and so it just makes sense, and I think it opens the door for, like, a lot of creativity with these movies. And it's just, like, wild. Like, even having seen it before, you're watching it, and your jaw's just on the floor with, like, oh my god, how could this happen? And, like I said, I started watching the sequel because I was so excited just about these movies, watching the first one, and the sequel seems to start off just as interesting to me. So I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm excited to revisit them all, and I'm excited for the new one.
Can I talk now?
Did I talk too much?
No.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
I also gave it a 4 out of 5.
Ooh.
I actually really liked the movie. I liked how uneasy I felt the whole time. I think it keeps my attention. I think sometimes when I don't like scary movies, I guess any movie, I just get bored in the middle and I'm like, this is so stupid. You know those commercials that are like...
The Geico commercials?
The Geico commercials.
Where they all run behind that wall of knives and the killer shows up and he like rolls his eyes at them.
Yeah. I feel like that happens a lot of time in horror movies and it just loses my attention because none of it's believable. And I understand with movies, not all of it's always going to be believable, but that's just something I really liked about this one. I think certain things you're like, oh, whatever. But it all seemed like there wasn't a killer they were escaping. They were just trying to escape death and prolong life, which I found to be really interesting.
I can tell you that if I was hit with, death really wants you dead and you're supposed to die, I ain't gonna keep fighting this. What are we doing?
I know, because the guy made a comment that death comes at you.
Because it just seems like...
worse. Like, he gets mad.
The fact that they went to Paris, I'm like, how are you so sure that you're in the clear? Clear?
Nah.
Get it? Okay. Anyway, I have for you a few of the strangest deaths I could find. I did leave out the names, and I did choose deaths that were pretty old to try and be respectful, but obviously I want to be respectful of the dead here. But I'll just tell you these stories. A man died because of holding in a sneeze. It turns out he had an aneurysm in his brain that popped at that moment.
Too much pressure. That's
so don't
sad.
hold in sneezes. Who cares where you are? Sneeze snot right on somebody's fucking face.
You know what is crazy about sneezes is, sometimes you sneeze. I could see that happening because you sneeze so hard that, like, it tingles. It makes your arms tingle.
Yes, that happens to me and it scares me. I'm
I'm
dead.
I get terrified every time. Yeah.
A man could not stop laughing for a continuous 25-minute period, almost the entire length of a TV show called Kung Fu Capers, and suffered a fatal heart attack as a result of the strain placed on his heart.
That's sad.
Allegedly, what I heard was that there was actually some other thing going on that they didn't find until his daughter was diagnosed with something, and they believed that maybe he had it too. But I don't know. A dog fell from a building in Buenos Aires, Argentina, landed in a woman's head, killing her. And the dog instantaneously also died. Then another lady, completely confused watching the event unfold from the middle of the road, was ran over by a bus. Then shortly after, an old man died from a heart attack out of the commotion of seeing both deaths. Does
That's
that one
insane.
not straight up sound like it's from this movie
It
or
does.
something?
It does sound like it's from this movie. I don't know if it's entirely believable.
A man's beard was so long that he tripped trying to flee a house fire and broke his neck falling down the stairs.
Aw, that's sad.
Then there's something called fatal familial insomnia. You can't sleep and you don't sleep until you die, and it runs in the family.
I've never heard of that, but it'd be interesting.
Apparently, it starts impacting you. They said anywhere between the age of 20 and 70, and
It has to be super rare to have like
yes,
an age range like that.
apparently it is super rare, and there's really just this one family that just continued to like have kids, and we're just like, hey, you're not gonna go long, maybe.
Aw.
So that's wild. Anyway, crazy deaths. You can go in any way, so be careful. So Final Destination Bloodlines releases this Friday on May 16th. But what is your sequel?
My sequel's called Final Destination.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Is it a reboot?
No.
You just naming it the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an anime series.
Whoa. This is a first for the podcast. Never have we had an anime series as a sequel.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So it's going to be about, I guess, all of the Final Destination movies, which I haven't seen them all. However, the tie to them all is going to be Dr. Bloodworth, the coroner. So the beginning of the show is going to revolve around the coroner, Dr. Bloodworth, and how he became to be the coroner. He'll start having premonitions regarding death and spends lots of time trying to escape it. While he is able to, when the time comes and he is cornered to face death, he sells his soul. Little did he know that it would be worse for him than if he had let death take him. The rest of the series of the show will be the death that follows throughout time. Death will attach itself to Clear first, because the coroner is the one who did her mother's autopsy when she died during childbirth. And Death wants Dr. Bloodworth to suffer, so he's going to attach himself to like sad cases that he does at the coroner's office. We see this affect Clear in her childhood. Meanwhile, flash to Alex, and he is a picture-perfect family, so Death doesn't want full-on happiness to occur, transitioning his eyes set on Alex, and that's when the premonition events start for the first Final Destination movie. I want the show to constantly flash back to Dr. Bloodworth trying to figure things out and fix them, which is why he tells Alex and Clear the story about how death will come in a worse ways. But because he sold his soul, he can't tell them the full truth of how he knows all of this, so he says it in a way that Death won't understand. The series will end with Dr. Bloodworth finally coming to the realization, after many years of research, that all of this will stop when he stops escaping death and allows death to take him after a long time of suffering.
Damn, his fault the whole time, huh?
Yeah, and that's how the show will end, with Bloodworth's death.
When you said it was going to be anime, I thought you were going to do a Death Note crossover.
Oh,
that's almost what I did.
That's
I
a
was
good
gonna
idea.
just say it was somebody doing Death Note like to everyone, but
I guess it could have been Dr. Bloodworth.
no, I don't think that was the best.
I don't know. I think it'd be good. It's broody, so I feel like anime would fit.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
I can't really tell.
Well, I typically don't share with you whether or not I liked it unless you ask. I'm just gonna make it a new part of season 3 where we have to give each other a quick, off the cuff, out of 5 rating on the sequel.
That sounds good. When's season 3 starting today?
No. Anyway, Final Destination: The Final Disaster.
No.
In the year 3000, the Earth...
Been to the year 3000. Not much has changed, but they lived underwater.
Not quite. The Earth is actually collapsing, Krypton style. Most people will die as a result. We see the citizens of Earth are in complete chaos. Some escape shuttles are set to leave, but only the wealthy and powerful will be among the crew. Our main character, Valerie, sneaks onto one of the escape shuttles where she doesn't belong, just to escape. As the shuttles launch, we see the ground on Earth start crumbling, causing several deaths, leading to all life on Earth ceasing. Except this was all a vision of what is to come that Valerie had while deciding to sneak onto the shuttle. She panics and quickly makes the decision. We see her vision happening, though Valerie keeps this to herself to avoid attention. Valerie sees all the wealthy people seem to have no feelings regarding the Earth and all those who's passed. They all show very little emotion until one of them has a space-themed freak accident. See, it's Final Destination in space. Going to be a lot of no air, airlocks, shot out the shuttle, broken spacesuits. It's going to be good.
I like that. How about any alien crossovers?
No, that's too much.
Oh, okay.
Death's already on their ass.
Just checking.
But then another and another, and at that moment of the third death, the passengers become worried that the ship isn't safe. Meanwhile, Valerie figures out that they are dying in the order they checked into their spots on the escape shuttle and shares this information while also revealing she snuck on. Valerie believes they have no hope as people continue to die. They make a plan to leave their shuttle and join one of the others, but upon making contact, they find the same situations have been happening on the remaining shuttles. On and on it goes, leaving just Valerie on her shuttle as she wonders when her time will come. She realizes, though, that one other person on the shuttle is alive who also snuck on. They embrace one another as strangers with no future. The end. Unless they were supposed to live.
So do they die?
That's for you to decide. But also, the whole Earth was dying and death was coming for all the people that left Earth. So it seems like maybe everybody's...
Yeah, and even if they do live, seems quite incestual. Because they'd have to repopulate,
They don't have to repopulate.
That's true.
You can just die.
That's true.
Anyway, I just was going for back in the fucking 80s when they started making everything just ridiculous with Jason X. That's a space themed.
Oh, yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So I'm going for space themed and also, everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead.
The whole Earth.
Nice.
It'll be the craziest intro to any Final Destination.
Yeah, and then I'll make the rest be like, wah, wah.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
So did you like it?
Yeah, it's alright.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. We do so appreciate it. If you want to talk movies with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky. We are NansPod everywhere.
NansPod.
If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or you can let us know your idea across our socials or at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you are listening. If I could ask you for one thing, it's to share our show with someone and leave us a review. That is how we get new listeners. Of course, I also ask that you come back for more Needless Sequels. Next week, we're watching Lilo & Stitch on Disney Plus in preparation for the live-action release of Lilo & Stitch on May 23rd.
Hawaiian roller coaster ride.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. We will see you next week.
Bye.